Hi and welcome to this DCP web tutorial. In today's tutorial I'm going to be giving you a beginner's guide to Windows 8.1, and the objective of this tutorial is to get you up to speed with the new interface, the way that Windows 8.1 works compared to something like Windows 7, which is quite a big difference between the two operating systems. Not in terms of the software that you use, pretty much most of that's going to stay the same, but the way that you access your applications and the way that you use the actual Windows 8.1 is quite different to Windows 7. So as you can see right now, I'm on what they call, or what Windows calls, the start screen. And when you load up Windows, this is what it's going to load as default. It's going to load you into the start screen straight away. And really there's two elements here. There's this start screen and there's your desktop. And to get access to your desktop is quite easy. You just simply move your mouse cursor to the bottom left hand corner and you get this little Windows icon here. It's called you can think of it like the start menu on the Windows 7 operating system, but now it's just this little window key. So when I click on that, it will take me to the desktop. And probably on other computers, or maybe even your own computer, or you've seen other computers, the desktop can sometimes be a bit messy. You've got so many different files stored on your desktop, it becomes a bit disorganized. And I've learned over quite a long period of time that you never ever store files on your desktop, only as a temporary solution. But you should always keep your files organized and not on your desktop. This is the worst place to really store them. So you can see my desktop's really clean. I've just got my background here with my website address, and all I've got is the recycle bin. Apart from that, there's no other applications or icons or files saved to my desktop. And I'm going to show you where I save my files to keep things quite clean. This will also improve the loading of your Windows software as well, the actual operating system. Because if you store a lot of files on your desktop, Windows has to memorize where all of these files are, what files you've stored on your desktop, and every time you load Windows up, it's got to try and keep track of all of that. So if you store them in a My Documents folder, for example, or the images in your Pictures folder and so forth, then it's not having to memorize where all of those files are when it loads up the desktop. So this is quite important. So always keep your desktop clean and you'll find your Windows will load that much quicker. So that's a nice little tip for you. So first thing I really want to show you is the actual start menu section here, and how I organized all of my tiles. You can see some of them are really small, some of them are like this medium size, and in Windows 8.1 you can change the size of these tiles. In Windows 8 you only had two options. It can either be a large tile or a small tile. Now you've got four different options. You can have like large, medium, small and extra small, we could call it. We'll check this in a moment. But I prefer these two sizes, and the icon, I kind of understand what these all are, so at a glance I understand what most of these applications are without having to think about it too much. So I've got Firefox here, for example. So the first thing I want to do is show you how I created these sections. It's quite easy to do this. So what I'm going to do is first of all is show you how to get new tiles onto your start tile menu section here. So how do we add a new application tile here? Before you can actually add the application tile, you need to install the software. So for example, I've installed my Microsoft Office, I've got Open Office down here, I've got all of my Photoshop. So all of these applications I installed onto Windows first, and as default Windows might put some of these tiles on there for you, but it won't always do that. So I want to show you how you get those tiles onto this start screen. It's quite easy. There's this drop down sort of arrow here, and when we click on that, it's going to show you all of the different applications that are installed on your computer. So I've got quite a lot of things installed here. Some of them are default when Windows installs it, when it's first installed, things like SkyDrive, Scan, Help and Tips, and certain things here like the calculator, the calendar. All of these things are going to be there as default. But a lot of the applications I've installed myself, like FileZilla, I've got Dragon Speech here, movie editing, a lot of these other applications I installed myself, and then you start to see them in this app section here. So a new feature of Windows 8.1, which you don't get on Windows 8, is the ability to filter these apps. So here it says by name. So as default, it's showing me them all in alphabetical order from top to bottom going across. So all the A's you can see here, A's and B's and C's and so forth. So if I click on this drop down menu, I can order them by date installed. So it's going to show me what the most recent elements or applications I've installed most recently, like Adobe Reader. I installed the latest version of this. So it's showing me everything most recent. You can also show by most used. So you can see I'm using Firefox or my File Explorer or Internet Explorer. These applications I'm using more frequently. And then I've got by category. So it will try to break them down into certain categories. It may not always get this right, but it will try its best to break them down into certain categories. So this is quite a useful way of finding things if you need to find your applications. But as default, I know what the applications are called, so I always do by name. Another way to find applications, let's say if I was looking for, you can see I've got quite a lot of applications installed here, and if I'm looking for a certain application, I know what it's called. It's called, let's say for example, OpenOffice Calc. If I type in Calc into this search bar, it's going to run through all of the applications. I can see there's Calculator, there's these two versions of the calculator, but here's also OpenOffice Calc, and that's what I was looking for. So this search bar is a nice easy way to find your applications without having to scroll through all of them to find them. That's another way you can do it. Just going to get rid of that. Now to get one of these tiles actually onto your start screen, let's take for example this calendar. I don't have this on the start screen at the moment. So what I'll do is I'll right click on the calendar with the mouse button, right click and then pin to start. And when I do that, you can see the calendar now is displayed here. And I can take this calendar and I can drag and drop it over here, for example. Then it can go in general with all my other general files, other general things that I'm using. And if I right click on the calendar in here, I can resize it, so I can change it. You can remember there's 4 different sizes here, so I can have it as large, I can have it as wide, which is its default, I can have it as medium, which is a little square here, and finally I can have it as small. It's a tiny little calendar option here. So that's how you get the icons onto your start screen and actually resize them. You need to right click on them. If you left click on it, it's going to load the application, so you need to right click and resize from here using your left mouse button. You can resize to whatever size you want. So I'm just going to get rid of this. I don't really want this here, so I'm going to unpin it. Not uninstall the application, but unpin from the start here. So once you've got all your applications on your desktop, you want to try and, you don't have to, but you want to try and group them into some type of, you want these organized in some way. So you can see all my Office applications are here, for example. So let me show you how you can group them together into its own little section. This is quite easy. So I'm going to click on this little drop down arrow again, and this time I'm going to put a few of these on here that don't already exist on my desktop, and we're going to group them, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So I'm going to right click on calculator, and if you hold down the control key while you're right clicking, you can select more than one application. So rather than having to keep coming back here, you can select many of them. So I'm going to select, let's say for example, these 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, these 6 applications, and I'm going to say pin to start. And then it's going to pin all of these. I'm going to get rid of this desktop one for the minute. Let me unpin that one. So I'm going to get these 5 applications pinned to my start, and you can drag and drop them wherever you want. So if I wanted the calculator to be in my browser section here for whatever reason, I can just go ahead and drag it and drop it into this section. But if I want to create a whole new section, then I need to drag it in between the 2 sections that where I want to position it. So I can drag it here. You can see this grey line appears. If I drag it here, it will start to create the new section here. So in this case, I'm going to drag it here, and you'll see it becomes its own sort of block here. If I drag more to it, it's going to start creating this tiled section for me, and we're going to try and organize this a little bit better. You can see like the tiles ain't exactly, you can move them around to get the layout quite nice. Let's just say for example we wanted all of these 4 here to be these square shapes here. We can again right click but holding down the control key and click on both of them, so we select both of these, you can see the tick arrows here, and we can say resize, medium, and we've got two of these squares, and maybe we'll make this one a wide one, so we can right click on this one, and then let's say we're going to make it a wide one. Now you can see it's nice and structured, there's no like gaps in between, although there's a gap here, it doesn't really matter, but if you want to make it look nice, then this is a nice way to do that. So once we've done that, we want to put a title across the top here. We want to give it a name or some sort of label. You don't have to, but it's nice to just do that if you want to do that. And the way that you do that is by just right clicking in a blank space. Actually, yeah, you right click in a blank space, and then you're going to see this customize option appear here. So I'm going to click on that, and then it's going to ask me to give the name, this group a name, and I'm going to call it, for now, general 02. So this is the second general section I have. When you hit the enter key, it will accept that, and then you can left mouse click on the desktop again here, just in the blank space, and it's going to bring it back to its normal view again. So that's how you quickly and simply create a whole tiled section. And if you want the icons to be smaller, you can quite easily do that. Just right click and hold down the control key to select many of them, and you can just resize them to small, and then there'll be 4 small icons, and you can make maybe we can make this one then a medium one, and then it will fit in nicely. So that's how you create these sections. I'm going to get rid of this one because I don't really want it. I don't really need any of these things here. I've already got a calculator here as well. There's like 2 different types of calculators. There's one where it's a full-blown application. I really don't like this. It loads it in a big window. I guess it's okay if you're using a tablet, but I'm not really using a tablet. I'm using a desktop computer, and I don't really want to see it like this. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to show you how you close down applications. There's a few different ways to do that. It depends on the type of application you open. So I'm going to show you that in a moment as well. So for now, I want to get rid of this section. I'm going to right click on all of these icons, and I'm going to say unpin from start. Now it's gone in and we're back to my normal view again. So that's quite simple. Now to get to my desktop, I need to click on this little icon down here in the corner, and most of the time I'm looking at my desktop because I'm loading applications, and typically they run in like a normal Windows view, like Firefox. If I click on this Firefox, for example, here you can see Firefox loaded up, and I've got other applications here as well installed. Here's a Google Chrome, and I've got the file browser. As default, down here at the bottom, you should see when you first load up Windows, you're going to see File Explorer and probably Internet Explorer, and that's about it. And this is called the Taskbar, and it's different from the Windows tile menu, the Start menu. And if you want to put items onto this taskbar just for quick access, so you don't have to keep going to the Windows Start menu, you can first of all go to this Windows Start menu. You can right click, let's say for example Internet Explorer. Let's right click on Internet Explorer, and we say pin to taskbar. So when I click that and I go back to my taskbar, I'll see those taskbar options here. And if you notice, when I move my mouse off of the taskbar, it kind of shrinks down, it minimizes itself. As default, Windows wouldn't normally do that, and the way to do that is you right click, go to, I believe, properties, and in here you can say auto hide taskbar. That's a feature I normally have because I want to get as much of the screen as possible to do my work. I don't need to see the taskbar all the time, so you can use this feature here. I quite like this feature here. And you can lock the taskbar as well. That just stops it from being dragged to a different location, because in theory you can drag it to the left or have it at the top or the right, but I normally always have it at the bottom. So the 2 options I set in here are lock the taskbar and auto hide the taskbar. That's what I do. Everything else I leave it as is default. So let's just look at a couple of other things. If I were to load up Google Chrome, it loads in its own little window here, and it loads as a normal application as it would load on, let's say for example Windows 7 or Windows XP. It just looks like your default web browser, nothing special here. It's just as normal as can be. And if you want to close it, you click on the little X and you close it. It's that simple. But with Windows, when you go to the store and you install an application from the store, those type of applications run a bit different. Um, it's a little bit hard to explain, but let's take for example, let's look at this. Let's look at this video, for example. I'm going to click on this, and you can see it loads it up in the full screen, and it's almost like it's almost more like something that you'll find on your tablet rather than something that would normally be a desktop application that you'll install. When you install these applications from the Windows Store, you got to remember that Windows 8 is for desktop, it's for mobile devices, it's for tablets. So the applications that run in here tend to be designed so that they're suitable for all of those different devices. Now, with these particular applications, there's a couple of ways to close them. And the easiest way to close it is to drag your mouse to the very top, and you get this little hand shape. And you left click and you drag down to the bottom of the screen, and that will actually close that application. Now there's another way to do that as well. Let's click on video again, and then I'm going to come down to the bottom and go to the start menu again. I'm going to click on music. So now I've got two different applications loaded, and I'm going to click on maps. So now I've actually got three different applications loaded. So let's just wait for this to load. If it will load, here we go. Okay. So you'll notice when you've got many applications loading, regardless, if you move your mouse cursor to the top left hand screen, it's going to show you the last thing that you loaded up. It's going to show you this is the application you're using now, and this was the previous application that you were using. And if you move your mouse to the very left corner, then move it downwards, you'll see it's going to show you all of the applications. It's going to show you the video, the music, and the map happens to be loaded right now. So if I click on music, it's going to switch to the music application, and now it's showing me the map here because that's the last thing that I used. So this is where you can see all of the applications that are running at the moment. I've got my desktop open, I've got the video, the map, and the music is running right now. And if I want to close them, I can move over here, right click on them and close. So if I close this, I can close this as well. And I've got the map left open. If I click on my desktop, I can see my desktop. And if I move my mouse here, you can see the music is still running here. And I can either close it by right clicking. Let's go to the desktop again. I can either right click on here and close it, or if I'm using the application I want to close it, I can just drag it from the top and drag it to the bottom. You can't do that with other types of applications. You can only really do that with ones that are installed from the store here. With things like Internet Explorer, or let's say Microsoft Word, for example, with these applications you need to press the X in the corner to close the application once it's loaded up. These are, yeah, you have to press that X to close it. So that's just a useful bit of information there to help you a little bit more. It's a bit confusing when you've got a lot of applications, and normally you'd see them down here at the bottom here, the ones that are loaded, but it doesn't quite work like that on Windows 8. Only for normal applications where you see them on the start menu, on the start bar down at the bottom. So if I open up, let's say for example, we've got OpenOffice Calc here. Let's have a look for Calc. Draw. OpenOffice Calc is here. If I click on that, this is an application I downloaded from the internet and installed on the computer. I did not download it from the store. I haven't actually finished installing this, but here we go. So this application, if I minimize it, I can see it down here on my start bar. So it's a bit different. You won't see that in this top corner, I believe. It just won't show. Let's try and load OpenOffice right here as well. So we'll have two of them loaded. Let's minimize that as well. Yeah, it just doesn't show in this top right hand corner because these are applications I downloaded. So you'll see them down here on this start bar. So you need to make a note of that. It's a bit different. So the other thing I tend to do, like I mentioned at the beginning, I don't save files or any information on my desktop, because I want the profile to be very small and to load very quickly when Windows boots up. And you probably know this, but when you load up, let's just do that again. So here you can see the file explorer. So this just gives you access to all of the files on your computer, like your C drive and all of the other sections here. And in here, in my documents, I normally create a folder. This one's just called 01 DCP. The reason why I put 01 there is so that it sits at the top of the list. If I put 02, then it will sit underneath in 03. So when I order them by name, 01 will always sit at the top. That's why I put a 01 there. It's called DCP, and then inside of here I've got all of my files that I'm using at the moment, and that's how I store all my files. So if I've got articles, I write my articles, and these are all video tutorials and stuff that I've done before, and I store them all in here. I keep them away from my desktop, and that way Windows seems to load a bit quicker because it's got a smaller profile to load for when it boots up. So do try and store all your files in the My Document section. It is My Document, so that's where you should put all your documents. You can put your music in here, and you can put your pictures in here if you want, but I just tend to store everything in My Documents in a folder and make subfolders. So again, this is quite a beginner's tutorial, so let me just show you how I made that subfolder. If you're not aware of how to do that, let's show you how to do that. So I'm going to right click on the desktop, and I'm going to go to New and then Folder, and I'm going to give it a name. So this time I'm going to call it 02-DCP, and when I click out of there, you can see it's put it in the second position. You don't have to do that, but I tend to do that just to keep things organized, so I can have it just helps me a little bit more, but it's entirely your choice whether you put the numbers in front. It just means that these will be shown at the top. It's up to you. And when I go into this second folder, I can create a subfolder called something like Files, and even inside Files I could create another subfolder called Calc Files or Pictures or whatever you want, and then you can start storing your images in here. Then you'll have like a structure, we call it a directory structure. You can keep making more subfolders in this file section, or you could go back here. Up here you can see documents. If I click on here, this is called like the cookie trail almost, and it allows you to just quickly get back to other directories. I can click on files and I can go back a directory quite easily. There's also this button up here. If you don't want to right click and then go to New and then Folder, you can click on this little button up here, and that will create a new folder as well. I'll maybe make a folder called Images and store all my images in there. If I go back to my main directory, this one here, you can see I've got articles, Blender work. This is where I do my 3D animation. I've got fonts in here. I've got stuff to do with networking, social networking. I've got all my stock images. And this is really a little rogue file. It shouldn't really be here, so let's delete it. When I delete that file, it's going to go into the recycle bin. And if I open up the recycle bin, you can see that file here. So if any reason I delete something and I want to get it back, as long as I don't empty the recycle bin, I can always drag it back in here again. So that's just something to note. Whenever you delete something, delete it, it's always going to get put into this recycle bin. And you can always come back to the recycle bin and drag it out in case you want it back again. In this case, I don't want this file. I don't need it no more. So I can right click on the recycle bin and empty the recycle bin. There's only one file in there, but now when I go into there, it's going to be empty. So be careful. If you do delete from the recycle bin and you empty it afterwards, that's pretty much it. That file's gone for good. It's not entirely true, but you know, it's a bit more technical to get that file back. So do be careful if you empty the recycle bin with files inside of there. You want to make sure what you put in there is exactly what you want to delete. So let's look at a few other things. In Windows 8.1, we've got a new store as well. So the store layout is a bit different from the original Windows 8, and it looks a lot nicer. Things are organized a bit better. It's a more pleasant system to use, you could say. And let's try and install something. So there's an application called TED. Here it is, TED Talks HD, something like this. So I'm going to click on this, search for it, It's going to find me this application and I want to install it. So you can read through the application, find out what it's all about, and if you was on a tablet you would see this as well, but in this case I'm on a desktop computer, so I want to install it. I'm going to click the install button and it's going to start to install this application. It says installing TED up here. If I click on that, it's going to show me the download progress of the installation. It's going to say TED has been successfully installed. That's great. I'm going to click back again, and I can click back again one more time to get back to the main store. If I want to close down the store, I can just drag it down to the bottom here, and you'll notice that it installed this TED application. This is like a video, it's a bit like YouTube but for some other type of videos, but it's not on my start menu. It's not being placed on here. So I'm going to click on the drop down arrow and let's try and find it. Let's type in TE. All I've got to do is type in TE and it's found it already. So I can right click on this now and say pin to start, and here you can see this TED video. Let's just load it up anyway, see what it's all about. And it's going to have loads of videos. It should load some thumbnails as well, hopefully. Doesn't seem to want to do that. It's got all the videos listed here, and you can watch videos on different topics, quite interesting stuff. So if you want to install this, by all means install this application, have a little look at it. And I'm going to minimize this, and in this case I'm going to show you how to uninstall it now. So I'm going to right click on it with the mouse. It's ticked, and I'm going to click uninstall. It's going to show you, are you sure you want to uninstall it? I'm going to say uninstall, and it's going to remove it. And if I go to this start menu here and type in TED again, TED, it's not going to be found. It's uninstalled the application. So that's how you install from the start menu. Also how you uninstall an application as well. So that's how you do that. So the next thing I want to show you quickly is when you, regardless if you're on your desktop or if you're in this Windows view, when you hover your mouse over the top right hand corner, you're going to get this search function, share, start, devices and settings. So these all provide you with a few different things here, a few different features. Search is quite interesting, in it's a nice useful tool, and in search, when you click on it, it says search everywhere, or you can click on the menu, search settings, files, web images, web videos. So there's a few different ways of searching for a few different things, but in here I'm going to just search for the word article. And it's going to look in all of my files, and it's going to look through all of the different things that I have on my computer, and it's going to try and find anything that's associated with the word article. It could be an application or something that I've written. It could be a lot of different things. So let's try and have a look at this in a bit of a better way. Let's go to the file manager. Let's have a look in here. Let's find something. Let's say I want to search for this word Twitter here. So I'm looking for, I may not know where this exact directory is of the file. Let's try and test this search feature. I haven't tested it too well so far, so let's go to search Twitter, and you can see that it's found a Word document. I did a little tutorial on how to set up a Twitter page, how to share your video on YouTube using Twitter. So I made a little tutorial video of that, and it's giving me some link to some Twitter page, and I can get to that via Firefox to search my history on my Firefox as well. This search feature doesn't just search what's on your desktop or on your computer, it's searching your history on your browser. It's also giving you some other search results like twitter.com. So it's quite useful, and it's searching everywhere. So it's not just the Windows 8 machine or Windows 8.1, it's also searching the internet. It's doing quite a lot of things for you quite easily. Now, another way to search is when you're on your desktop here, you can literally just start typing. So if I type, let's say Photoshop, if I type in the word photo, it's going to find everything with the word photo related to it. So it's found Adobe Photoshop photo application, it's found Magic's photo editor, it's found quite a lot of things that are related to the word photo. So it's not just applications, and I don't even need to actually go all the way up here and then click on search. I can just be on my desktop and just start typing whatever I want. If I type in Word, it's going to find Microsoft Word and any Word documents that I've created or anything associated with Word. It's quite a useful tool, and it's quite interesting how they've implemented the search feature there. So that's a nice way to search for things. If you want to customize your desktop or this Windows Start, you can do that by hovering over here, and I believe you go to Settings, and inside Settings you're going to click on Personalize, and inside here it's got these default Windows backgrounds. So if I click on here, you can see this background. It's loaded it into my browser. I'm not too fond of these backgrounds, to be honest. I like my backgrounds nice and clean and not very distracting, so I made my own background, and it's just got my website address there, and it's just a black background. That's what I like. But you can play around with it. You can just, you can play around with these options here, and if you're not liking these backgrounds, the ones that are here, there's another way to do backgrounds as well. I'm just going to set my default one back again. If you go to your desktop, let's close this, and if you right click and then go to Personalize, in here Windows has some desktop backgrounds that you can work with as well. So if you click on something like flowers, it's going to install this default theme. It's almost like a theme, or colored lines, or windows, and you get all of these default backgrounds, and I believe they will show on the start menu as well. You can see it's taken that background. I happen to just create my own background, and that's what I prefer to use. But if you want to create your own background, you need to make it the right resolution. You can do that in Photoshop. It's probably a bit beyond the scope of what we're doing today, but you need to create a JPEG file or PNG file. And if you go to screen resolution on your computer, I'm actually running dual screens here, but I can see it's 1920 by 1080, so it's HD resolution. So I'll create a file 1920 by 1080 high, and then I'll save that to my computer, and then I can click on desktop down here, and I can browse for the desktop, the one that I want to use. You can see there's one loaded right here. So that's how I got my own custom background here. That's another way to do it, but that's a little bit beyond the scope of what we're doing today. So I think that's pretty much about it for this tutorial. It was a beginner's guide, so I didn't really want to go into anything too technical. I'll just say one last thing that you should probably do is hover over this right hand side, go to Settings, and down here you've got some other options as well. And probably the most important is change PC settings, and inside of here you can get access to different types of elements within Windows 8, and one of those important elements is going to be your update and recovery. And inside of here you can check for new updates. Really, when you install default Windows 8.1, it should install it and it will do the updates automatically for you, so it will check for them. And when you close down your Windows, it might pop up a message saying that it's installing some updates. Don't turn off your machine. So just follow those instructions when it's updating your Windows. That's quite important. In my next tutorials, I'm going to be going through some more of these advanced things like SkyDrive, Windows that allows you to back up your files into a secure location. It's quite an interesting tool here, and there's quite a few different other options here like PC and devices and account settings. You can create many accounts as well on Windows, so you can have an account for yourself. If I just drag this down, you'll see it says DCP Web Designers here, and this happens to be the account that I'm logged into. But if I had someone else in my office, and I could create a different account for them, so when they log in they'll get their own start menu, and I can give them access to only certain files, so they can't see my files, they can only see their own files, and they can install their own applications. You can set privileges, you can do a lot of things, but that's a bit beyond the scope of this tutorial. So I do hope you enjoyed this basic tutorial, and look out for my next tutorial. In my next tutorial I'm going to be showing you much more advanced features of Windows 8.1 actually, and I look forward to seeing you on that next tutorial.